Rebiya Kadeer, the exiled leader of the Uighurs, is leading the calls for change in China's northwestern Xinjiang province. Kadeer, who now lives in a Washington, D.C. suburb, leads protest rallies in the U.S. Capitol against what she calls China's repressive treatment of her people.
The Chinese Communist government suppressed us so much that they have had enough. So it is up to them. What they want is what I want, and they want freedom.
The 63-year-old political activist, with her trademark long braids, finds herself in the spotlight again after deadly ethnic violence erupted between minority Uyghur Muslims and majority Han Chinese earlier this month. For years, she's been fighting for the rights of the Uyghurs, a mostly Muslim Turkic-speaking people who make up nearly half of Xinjiang's 20 million people. Many Uyghurs say they've been marginalized because of an increase of Han Chinese.
They migrated millions of Chinese into our region and took away the land from Uyghur people, took the jobs, and every living condition is being taken from local Uyghur people.
Kadeer was a successful Uyghur entrepreneur, running trading companies, restaurants, and department stores in Xinjiang in the 1980s. In 1993, she was considered one of the wealthiest people in China and was appointed to China's legislature. At the time, the government praised the mother of 11 as a role model for the Uyghur people.
After I became wealthy, I thought by getting involved in politics I could work within the Chinese system to persuade the Chinese leaders to change their policies so that the Uyghur people would enjoy freedom and human rights.
But Kadeer says she failed to persuade China's leaders to change their policies. She became an outspoken critic of the government, which retaliated by removing her as a legislator in 1997. Authorities went on to accuse her and other Uyghurs of seeking an independence for Xinjiang. And in 1999, she was arrested on charges of leaking state secrets. After spending nearly 6 years in prison, she was sent into exile. In recent weeks, Beijing has accused Kadeer and other Uyghurs outside of China of helping to foment the violence in Xinjiang. Here is Kadeer in 2006.
The Chinese government even claims that I am a terrorist. Actually, I am opposed to all forms of terrorism, whether conducted by Chinese, by Uyghurs, or by any person.
Since going into exile, Kadeer has been gaining prominence. In 2006, she was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. Now Kadeer heads two prominent Uyghur exile groups. She's been meeting with U.S. lawmakers on Capitol Hill to press Washington to put more pressure on China to stop the alleged human rights abuses against Uyghurs. Despite the recent violence in her homeland, she remains optimistic.
I believe in the future. The Uyghur people will enjoy freedom in their own home country, just like people here in the United States and around the world.
Kadeer is clearly determined to achieve this dream. She vows to continue speaking out against China, saying her voice is the hope for millions of Uyghurs in Xinjiang. Chris Simkins, VOA News, Washington.
So far for the Uighurs until today, for decades. That's why they already realized that, the Uighurs